Hello, everyone. It is Friday, January 18th, 2019. This is Kops Office Hours. I am your moderator, facilitator, Justin Santa Barbara. I work at Google. A reminder, this meeting is being recorded and will be put on YouTube, and please be mindful of that and be a good person. I put a link in the chat to our agenda. If we have a lot of stuff on the agenda, mostly my stuff, admittedly, but we have a lot of stuff on the agenda, which is great. But if you do want to talk about something, please do put it on the agenda, or else we may not find time for it. And please do put your name there if you are willing to, so that you can be identified for people, I guess, referring back to the minutes or the meeting notes. First up on the agenda, let's just jump right into it. First up on the agenda, Andrew, I think you have a PSA deprecating support for initializers.
Yeah, so SIG API machinery wants to get rid of initializers, which was alpha in 1.14. And so Jordan kind of wanted to have a version of kops that has it disabled pushed through CI. And so he made a PR that would disable it for 1.12. So I sort of did my research. It seems like we have it disabled in kube-up starting 1.12. And given it's alpha, I kind of just approved the PR going forward. But I wanted to raise it here in case there was any like context or history I'm missing for disabling initializers to begin with.
That sounds good to me. I don't know if anyone says anything. I think we turned it on basically by default. I think we turned it on by default by syncing with the kube-up configuration. I don't know if anyone is going to, I hope no one will be disappointed that they are being removed.
Okay, that's cool. So like in terms of like actual Kubernetes usage of initializers, the only place it's used is in the out-of-tree persistent volume labeler controller. And so from my understanding, that is not used anywhere in kops unless someone explicitly enables alpha CCM, which I don't think anyone has.
We're working on it, but not yet, as far as I know.
Yeah, that's what I figured. But yeah, but like when we hit that, we may, like, Dims and I are going to work on some alternatives to that. So hopefully we'll have a solution by the time we get there.
I was going to say, what is the alternative?
So it's either going to be a mutating webhook admission, mutating admission webhook, or we're going to have to use some other field that's not an initializer, but I don't know what that's going to be yet. So yeah.
You're going to name a field, not the initializer.
Maybe, yeah.
Initialize, true, false.
Yeah, or we're thinking of adding some logic in like the persistent volume controller that would like add the labels before it binds it to something, but that sounds a bit more tricky than it sounds. So we're going to have to dig into that. Yeah,
for historical, we can talk about it separately, but for historical context, the reason it was done there is because those labels are used in scheduling.
Yeah.
Which is before, what at least was before binding.
Yeah. But yeah, once I come up with something, I'll update here.
Awesome.
Cool. And also just on some personal note, today is my last day at DigitalOcean. And so if anyone here is interested in picking up the DigitalOcean support for kops, let me know, and happy to kind of walk you through what that looks like and let you know what else needs to be done on that end. I'll still be around to support it if needed, though.
Do you want to share what you're doing on Monday?
So actually on Tuesday, I'm going to be joining VMware. So still going to be working with Kubernetes and whatnot, but just less so on the DigitalOcean side of things.
Congratulations.
Nice. Congrats.
Thank you.
Congratulations, yeah.
That's it for me. Thanks.
Thanks, Andrew. Yeah, great. Next on the agenda, I just had a public service announcement reminder. Like, today is the deadline for your KubeCon talk submissions for EU Barcelona, which is in May. So if you want to submit a talk, please do put it on there, or please get it in today. I see someone typing about the DO. Yeah, I think we can. The hard bit is like getting an account, but it would be great to figure out how we can. We're generally on the DO topic. We have the Kubernetes infra team that is starting to spin up, and maybe they can be a clearinghouse for sort of test accounts, and we can start to get like automated testing going on DO. I think that would be super helpful. Also for the cluster provider DO, I guess.
Sounds good.
Next on the agenda, external egress pull request. Who is that? Are you here? It's loading. Are you here, Mustafa? I don't see Mustafa here. I can give some context on this, I guess, which is, I think I originally proposed that we have a new, there's a lot of people that want to do different networking configurations than we currently support in kops. We've been trying to map the most common ones. There's such a diversity of configurations that we know we can never map them all, or we are learning that we can never map them all. And this is a sort of get out of jail free card where we explicitly say that the egress configuration will not be managed by kops. I think I originally proposed it. I think other people in the community were less keen on it, as I recall.
Yeah, I don't see the kops managing it. I mean, this is something that is more generic and like general, I would say. So that makes sense, I think. Because
yeah, the downside is that one of the problems we faced in the past is when people do things themselves, we have no easy way to validate that it's correct. And so if they hit a problem, we can't tell them about it. So if you let kops manage it or kops validate it, kops can check it and will give you a very clear error if something is wrong.
Yeah, validation is always good, right?
But like we can do zero validation when we say external. We have no way of knowing.
Yeah, exactly. So I think your approach is okay because yeah, I can see this also because this is one of the tools inside. So,
and I think it supports the move, Mike. We were talking about this earlier, like the move to like externalize networking configuration into a different object that may or may.
That sounds like a nice idea.
I don't know if anyone has any objections to the idea.
I don't have any objections. I think it's fine. I think that it kind of brings to mind that like some of the docs, every time we add like an exception like this, we kind of just expand on the existing doc. And maybe at some point we should restructure to say kind of what you just said, Justin, of like, the kops way that we suggest as, the best, way that we check and we verify, but here's the advanced use cases and break them out. That way, first-time users don't come in and try to do this. Try this on your third or fourth cluster,
Exactly.
I like the idea of having the flexibility available for users.
I mean, egress topic itself is very, very general, right? So I wonder where it should be handled, like in the first place.
Egress networking, yeah.
It's a very general topic, and you have so many add-ons, like
Yeah, it's tricky, and I think one of the reasons that kops works at all is because it does manage that configuration for you. Because if we didn't manage it, it would be just the configuration is so complicated that people would just not get it right. The downside is that there is not just one solution for networking, as you say, and it's a difficult trade-off.
But you mentioned that object, so maybe there is something to be created, like very abstract.
Exactly. If we externalize into a separate object, maybe we could actually achieve, or set of objects, maybe we could achieve coverage with visibility and validation. Like
some nice interface. Yeah.
Okay, it sounds like we're generally, the people on this call at least are generally on board, but I like the suggestion that we validate things. Oh, sorry, that we put docs in there. Sorry, trying to type at the same time as talking is hard.
Yeah, I mean, there are docs. He did, put docs in, but I guess I'm thinking outside the box of like a future task of like breaking out some of these advanced features and restructuring some of the way we put the docs in for these. But I like it. I'm cool with it.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. All right, we have one. I'm going to swap the order of the next two, just because this this 111 one is hopefully a little faster. So another one that I put on the agenda, or one that I put on the agenda, which is we want to get in the habit of more regular releases. We had a request for a cherry pick of a PR for a missed dependency for Docker 1806, and it turns out that one needs another PR. So we have two sort of small, relatively safe PRs to add. Other ones that we might want to put in are some etcd manager fixes. As Ryan points out, yes, we should not use the latest tag. That is a little. Well, I am careful about pushing that particular one, but yes, it's not great, and we should get it onto a tag, and we should put that into the same deployment, more automated deployment that we're using for kops, or we could just vendor it. I realized today, which might be an easier option. So in other words, kops could vendor etcd manager, and even though it's a little bit weird, but we could like have a kops etcd manager version that was tagged with kops, or that was like released alongside kops. That's another option. I don't know if anyone else has any other. So I think we should do that unless anyone objects. Basically getting into the habit of more regular releases, working towards fully automated releases. We're not fully there on the 111 stream. I'm trying to get us there on the 112 stream. But yeah, at least we can start doing more regular releases. I don't know if anyone else has any other PRs they want to, or they think should be backported to 111, kops 111. If you do, then if you have label permissions, then add the cherry pick label or comment on it saying, please cherry pick, or please consider cherry picking to 111, and we can have a look. We don't tend to do new features, but if there are any bugs or smaller features, we can look at.
Yeah, I would just say that quorum fix for etcd we should definitely get out.
Yes, this is one that Ryan found. Sorry, where if etcd manager quarantines half the nodes, it gets very confused. etcd has this concept of quarantining an etcd node where because etcd doesn't support a read-only mode, what we do is we launch it on a different port so that no one can talk to it and is effectively read-only because no one can make any changes to it because no one can reach it. We call that quarantine mode. And the problem was, I guess something went wrong in your cluster and it got half quarantined and half not quarantined, and we didn't know, etcd manager didn't know what to do at that point. It was very confused. So there's a fix for that. So we should definitely get that one in.
Okay, so it explains this very, very nicely, actually. I wasn't aware of this.
Cool. And then, yeah, and I've been doing a lot on etcd. Actually, that brings us on to the next topic. So I don't know if anyone else has anything else they want to do on 111.1.
On the same lines, are we going to get a 1.12 beta out? I know we talked about doing those betas more regularly as well.
Yes, I am working on that. I think we should. I think it really ties into the next topic about about what goes in there, because we have some big potential changes, and I guess it would be an alpha, so it doesn't really matter whether we like introduce much more things. But yes, there was also some. I'm trying to get it building automatically, and there was some infra stuff that just I had to get everything all lined up, and I think I messed up the PR for infra to do that. So just working on that. If there's nothing else on 111.1, we can go on to the next topic, which is I think the big topic, and may take us a lot of time. So, all right, so we finally have. I've been doing a lot of work to make etcd manager super robust. Etcd manager is the tool which will manage etcd going forwards. It replaces the sort of built-in one that's built into ProtoCube, which is a kops component, and it is technically a separate project. It itself has etcd manager itself has a roadmap of merging into etcd ADM, which will be a project under SIG cluster lifecycle, but that's taking longer than we want to wait. We have a hard deadline of etcd 3 by Kubernetes 1.13 because Kubernetes 1.13 turns off etcd 2. So etcd manager does the impossible and gets you from etcd 2 to etcd 3, even in HA configurations. That's a little tricky, and but it works. I've been hitting on it and found a bunch of bugs, and with Ryan's help, I found some more. Thank you. And so
I think you're welcome.
So it's actually like pretty. It's better now. It's pretty good. I need to like go back and I don't know how to like I need to keep hitting on it and see if we can find any more. But it certainly fixes a lot. And I also introduced TLS because that was the big remaining feature that was sort of like not in etcd manager at all, and I was very worried it was going to have consequences in terms of, we don't want another migration where you go turning on TLS. Turning on TLS is actually not a particularly disruptive operation, but I'm still proposing that we turn it on by default, or not even by default, turn it on for everyone with etcd3. The downsides are that it would that we turn it on for etcd, turn on TLS for etcd3, and that we prevent any external process from accessing etcd. That is good from a security point of view, but it is bad for two networking providers. Calico and Cilium both talk directly to etcd. I don't know if anyone knows of any other things that also talk directly to etcd. But as far as I know, there are not, and that is a good thing. For Calico, there is an option, which is to use CRDs, which is better than talking directly to etcd.
I think Flannel also uses. I mean, you can use one of two options. I think API or it is ATCD directly, but I'm not sure because it was some time ago. And
yeah, you are right. I think Flannel can use etcd. I don't think our configuration does not use etcd, and I think Flannel itself no longer recommends using that mode. I think they.
Okay, I know.
Yeah, the background is I think when networking systems that wanted to support other systems than Kubernetes didn't want to talk to the Kubernetes API, didn't want to drive themselves on the Kubernetes API, so used etcd as their source of truth. For ones that have primarily focused on Kubernetes, now it seems that using Kubernetes API is a good thing to do, particularly with CRD.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
So there's Calico, and there's some complexity there, but we'll come back to that. And there's also Cilium, where we actually have no option right now. And I need to talk to the Cilium folk, but I don't know if anyone is using Cilium, but today Cilium does not have a mode that does not talk to etcd. So we would have to, before 1.13, we would have to either persuade Cilium to support CRDs or spin up a separate etcd for Cilium, both of which are, well, the CRD option is much better, and hopefully we can just persuade them to do that. The etcd option is not bad. We do currently run two etcds, one for etcd events, a separate one for etcd events. So it would not be the end of the world to support a third, but I would rather they supported CRDs. But we have an option there. I'm honestly not sure if how people use Cilium anyway, so it may be that CRDs, maybe that moving to CRDs might help them get adoption as well, because it is some cool technology. But now going back to Calico is the trickier one, as I'm sure Ryan can attest to. Ryan has helped me a lot with understanding the Calico upgrade, and we also spoke to Casey from Tigero or Calico Inc., who helped us a lot with understanding. And as far as, let me know if I'm misspeaking here, Ryan.
Okay.
But we couldn't figure out a way to go from Calico 2 to Calico 3, but it was a non-disruptive upgrade. And disruptive in this case means, for Calico, it means that your old nodes can't talk to your new nodes. So effectively, things might work, but really you want to just blow through your nodes as fast as you can, because like half your nodes are going to be segmented from the other half, and Kubernetes isn't going to know, and it's going to be weird. It's going to be like a network partition. So you can.
I've seen this with Rabbit nodes, and yeah, no.
Yeah, it's not a good thing to have for very long. So like your workload should be fine, but like heavily degraded during it. Like it will be a lack of connectivity. But yeah, that is something that can happen. Any like zones can be partitioned from each other. So no workload we shouldn't introduce any failures, but it's certainly not something that you want to keep going for very long. So that would basically mean there are two upgrades for Calico users, both of which are disruptive. There's the etcd manager upgrade, which is disruptive in a way that I'll talk about in a minute, but only for masters. And there is a Calico upgrade, which is disruptive effectively for every machine. A Calico user can combine those two upgrades, or we can split them. I am proposing as a straw man that in kops 1.12, we move Calico users to etcd manager and Calico CRD, and that we combine them into a single upgrade. Which in this case would be that you bounce every node, and you will take some downtime while this happens.
That sounds like a good idea, because I think that can be stable if approached correctly.
It can be what? Sorry.
Stable.
Yeah, it's a better endpoint. It is a disruptive upgrade, right? So Ryan, like, I don't know how you feel about that. Like, I feel like you've bitten the bullet on most of your upgrades already.
Yeah, we've pretty much bit the bullet. We moved to Canal and got off.
Okay.
We switched our CNI out and then we upgraded etcd3. We're hitting our prod clusters tonight, and we will be done.
That is the other option, of course. You can you can move to another networking mode that basically has CRDs already.
But yeah.
So yeah, maybe that's how I'll explain it to the Calico folk. Is we're actually keeping folk on Calico, not pushing people away from Calico. But yes, so I don't know if anyone has any there'll need to be release notes and all that. I don't know if anyone has any objections in principle to the idea. Basically, I think Brian and I looked and we couldn't find any any less disruptive option that was practical. Like, we can always write something, but like Calico Inc. didn't write anything, or they wrote something which didn't work for the full 2 to 3 transition. And I put up a work in progress PR, so if people have thoughts, feel free to comment on that PR, but we'll need like clear release notes about how to do the upgrade and that. I don't want to write those because I want to figure out the exact process that we're going to tell people to do before I tell people what the process is.
So yeah, I fully support this, and I think you and I talked about this offline. But like, I think it's good for us to push this forward. I think that the TLS support, like, we should be embracing that, and we should be telling people that that's the right way to do things, in my opinion. I guess my couple thoughts are, when we get the question of like, well, I don't want to do that. Are we prepared to say, well, the team has decided, this is the way forward. This is what we recommend as cops. I think there's that point that we need to make sure that we're ready to say that. But also, I was thinking, so you said that you suggest doing this etcd manager and the Calico upgrade at the same time. By doing this in 1.12, we're also doing a Kubernetes upgrade at the same time and a kops upgrade at the same time, right? So is there any reason we might want to, I don't know, limit the scope of that so that they could do it in 2 passes, or I don't know, just because that's, kind of 4 pieces. Now, generally, Kubernetes upgrades have been fine in the past few years for me, or let's say a year and a half. But, post 1.6, 1.7, but I'm just throwing it out there as a point.
I think it's a good point. I think it also like makes it harder to downgrade. Like, if you're making 4 changes at once and then you but some of those work with 1.11 and some don't.
Right.
They don't work with 1.11, but that makes it harder. I think I can draw up docs on how to split it up, because I think it is possible. I think it would involve multiple disruptive upgrades. Yeah. But I think. Yeah, one way to do it is to, we can still do Calico with CRDs in 1.12, and you could explicitly not turn on etcd manager in 1.12. So currently we turn it on automatically, but I think you could I think, or we can make it so that you can specify legacy. In other words, actively turn it off. So we'll still won't have Calico we'll still have Calico using CRDs for everyone using kops 1.12, but we won't. You can, if you really want to keep your etcd alive, or etcd, not alive, if you want to keep your etcd on version 2 or insecure for whatever reason, then you can do that. I don't know why people would, but you can do that. I think that's a good idea, right?
So I would think, the only thing I would say is I think we need to do more testing around the upgrade process, particularly moving to etcd manager from the old system on version 2, and upgrading to v3 etcd manager at the same time. My experience has been that is not a smooth process at trying to combine those 2 steps.
You're talking about, sorry, the 2 steps are Calico?
The step of moving to etcd manager and doing the etcd v2 to v3 upgrade at a single step does not play does not play nice. You need to do those as two steps.
I think, okay, cool. I have actually been hitting on that. So I think it is better, but yes, I think that is a good thing to suggest. We could actually, we can recommend splitting the steps there as well. So, or we can recommend maybe have an option.
And the other issue we've seen, and I don't know if you've done some work on this, has been after migrating first to, so having a cluster running etcd2, migrating it to etcd manager, still running v2, then going to apply the v3 upgrade. The issue we've seen, right, is once it does the first master, is it won't validate the cluster at that point because API server is down on the other two because it's still v2. And the only way to do that is to go, term nodes manually, or go for or ignore validation, which is really a bad idea, I think.
Well, yes. So this is where, this is the other thing. Like the etcd to etcd manager migration is currently disruptive as well, just for the masters.
Yeah.
And it's for exactly the reasons you said. It's validation fails because the new node can't join in a 3-node cluster. The new node, which has etcd manager, can't find the other two the other two etcd managers, and fails to join the cluster because each API server only talks to its local etcd. And I have been doing the testing with like just role, like cloud only, instance group roles, master, and master interval. I do like 2 seconds, right? So basically like rolling all the masters at the same time, but it is a scary upgrade. I don't know if there's anything we can do about it, to be honest.
Yeah, let's not recommend that, because if you're running all your masters in the same AZ, which is something like if you're in Brazil or some of those that don't have 3 regions, or 3 AZs available, you may be doing. They will mismatch the EBS volumes when they boot, if you term all 3 of them at the same time, which probably won't cause any problems, but just seems really bad.
It's weird, but it is not. There's no risk. There's no problem with doing that I'm aware of. Although it is confusing.
Yeah.
I don't know I'm wondering if we could do some hash trick or something to try to get them. I'm trying to think why they actually, because it's just a race. Yeah. I'm trying to think whether we could do some trick to get them to, I'll look at whether there's a trick we can do.
How about running etcd3 in etcd2 mode or something like this?
Yes. So this is a whole nother, you obviously are familiar with the joys of etcd2 to etcd3. So etcd3 support, etcd2 and etcd3 are basically completely different databases. They're completely different code bases. And they are
protocol difference, for instance, right?
And a storage difference, exactly. Yeah. And they share, the only thing they share is 4 letters, which is the etcd thing. Like etcd-ctl doesn't work between them. So what etcd manager does is so when you run etcd3, by default, it runs both databases in a single process, and it listens for both protocols. And when you talk etcd2, you see storage 2, and when you talk etcd3, you see storage 3. So this one database is serving 2 different data stores in the same key space, which is just a little scary. So in other words, imagine that we didn't pass the etcd3 flag to API server, you would roll back to whatever you were on V2. That's I think that's terrifying. So what we did in etcd manager is we basically, when we run etcd3, we turn off etcd2 mode entirely. We don't run the old etcd2 storage engine and the old etcd2 listener, I guess. Okay. That's why the upgrade is disruptive, but it would be, well, actually, yeah, it would just be weird. It would be.
I think you can avoid this disruptiveness, overall. So, I don't know.
I have tried. I will take another look because it is a pain point.
Maybe
But
it's
it,
worth looking. Yeah, I guess.
yeah.
Who knows?
I will look at whether, especially if we split the upgrade, I'll look at whether it's possible.
So if we split the upgrade, if we had a way for, because the problem is once the upgrade is split, right? The problem is once you've done the etcd v3 upgrade, is the second and third masters, their API server is still configured to talk v2, and that's no longer available. So if we could have a way for that to, poll and figure out what version of etcd the cluster was configured, like if we could read back to the S3 bucket every even like 5 minutes or something and look for the version of etcd that we were set to run and then update its config, it could pass validation at that point.
It does do that. The challenge is we have to also configure API server. So etcd manager does something similar to what you're describing.
Okay.
So in other words, if you go in and you say etcd manager, please upgrade to version 3, it will do that. The challenge is we have to, as you say, at some stage when it notices that change,
we have to also tell it to update the API server.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
the tricky one.
Yeah.
And I don't have any. I guess one thing we could do is we could have. So one option would be we don't worry about it. We say just it's going to be disruptive. That's on your first in an HA cluster on your first master. It's going to be disruptive. The other option is we do something weird, like we have kubelet register via the API, the ELB endpoint. So the reason why it fails,
it's good. You could do the DNS failover or whatever failover here. I mean, I think I know what you're trying to say.
Yeah. The reason it fails is because the etcd on the local etcd is isolated, but etcd is still running because we still have 2 nodes. And so although the kubelet can't register locally, it can register if it goes up into the pool. It's a lot of changes.
Yeah.
I will look into it. I am wary that it will not be better. Like I'm thinking a lot about, like you read about these case studies where big systems fail because they were like
complexity.
Yeah, automated to the extreme, and then the automation just like went berserk.
Yeah, and I think as long as we update the docs and make the docs a lot clearer about what the process is and what you should expect to see if you're running a high availability cluster versus a single node master, like, and document some of that stuff a little better, I think it's fine. Like right now, the docs are like, I think you can just do all this together. And
yes, agreed. Yes, I have held off on the docs because it hasn't been like we needed to have this discussion as a community and figure out what's acceptable.
Agreed.
I think there is a new requirement in here in that, like, if we want to support turning on etcd manager in a less disruptive way, we have to support. We have to split out the TLS configuration. So I'll look into doing that. Well, what it means is, so here's what I think. I think we should have it be that you can. Here's what I suggest: you can install etcd manager in 1.11. And it won't automatically turn on TLS until you go to 1.12. I think, anyway, that's what I'll look at. Because maybe not. Yeah, maybe not. I'm trying to think. etcd manager is pretty smart about like rolling out TLS, so maybe we'll get away with it. We'll have to see. Like each node reports whether it supports TLS or not. So I will double check. It might be possible to roll it without the. While turning on TLS at the same time. Oh, but we can't do that. No, because Calico. That's why. So Calico won't talk TLS.
Well.
Okay, we can maybe that wouldn't be an option for Calico. Yeah, okay. I'll think about the path anyway. We'll try to find a less disruptive path that doesn't change 4 things at once, including for users of Calico.
But as I said earlier, I think that, if that's what we're saying, we stick with it. I was just trying to propose the alternate. I do support it. I think that we should kind of just do it. It's bigger than the last few upgrades we've had, but hey, if it's what we should do, I support it as well. So don't spend too much time on it, Justin.
Okay, I appreciate that. I mean, I think if anyone has any particular reason for why, other than like Calico talking to local etcd, why they need to talk to etcd not using TLS, I think it'd be great to hear that. I think, you know, we have this idea of pushing kops towards a most secure configuration possible, and I think that does mean that we will have to make some more disruptive upgrades. I think this is like definitely on the, like, we would like to do it more smoothly. I think this is so this actually isn't I call it a disruptive upgrade. It's actually not, you wouldn't expect to see, if you're not using Calico, you would not expect to see any workload interruption. You would expect to see and technically I think the control plane is actually still alive during this rolling update. It's just our validation logic for the rolling update is too conservative in this case.
You'll get it's interrupted because you have multiple API. You have one API server that's able to talk, and you have two that aren't in the pool. So you'll get intermittent errors hitting the API.
Yes, you have a much higher error rate, but
yes.
you should anyone using client Go, for example, I think should not have a problem. They will eventually find the working server, and sort of all their watches will resume. Blah, blah, blah. But yes, it's the whether or not it's actually disruptive. Like, this is certainly more like most of our future ones. We would like to be less disruptive, and I think we can achieve that. This one is a sort of special case. I hope it's a special case.
To me, it feels like we need to do an etcd manager release with some of these fixes in it without the TLS, just for the 111 users. Let them upgrade there, and then do the TLS in 112.
I think that's probably right. I think I will. I think we have reached that conclusion, and I will. I think it's possible. I'm sort of proud about like some of the tests that are in the etcd manager like code base right now. There's some like fairly brutal stress tests and integration tests. So
I can say from upgrading a ton of clusters over the last week that if you get just the quorum patch in, I think we would be good in 111. Like, that seemed like the biggest blocker.
There are others, but yes, there are other ones. Like there are lots of ones where we take a lot longer than we would like to converge. So I think, knock on wood, I think you will be happier with some of the other patches. But yeah, it is super, like, the reason why that matters is if you're just sitting there for 5 minutes waiting for a DNS timeout, it's a little frustrating because you don't see anything when you do kubectl like operations. So it's scary. I don't know if there's other things we want to talk on this front. I think the action items, I think we're generally agreed on the approach. I think there were action items for me to look at breaking it up, doing a release of etcd manager that we can turn on in 111 that doesn't necessarily turn on TLS. I think we're generally agreed that at some stage we'll like do etcd manager with forcing people to use TLS. We're generally agreed that the Calico upgrade will probably have to be disruptive, and then we'll have to figure out what Cilium's going to do. And if I draw up, and we're definitely agreed that I need better and clearer docs. And then I think once we see those, we can, like, this is not like the final say. I think once we see those docs, we can say, actually, that's too disruptive. We need to split that process up, type thing.
Agreed.
So on a somewhat, I guess, related tangent, I know we've had a bunch of PRs in the past about improving the way we do our rolling updates across nodes and speeding that process up when there's a ton of nodes. Where have we landed with that? I know it got one point, it got kicked back to API machinery, and then it looked like there were some more PRs later. Like, are we willing to take some changes in for that, or?
So it wasn't API machinery, but my recollection is not API machinery. It was the cluster API. And so actually, the next item on the agenda is, like, on the short-term roadmap are 3 things that I'm suggesting that I'm particularly planning on working on. And one of them is taking those first steps on the cluster API. So the cluster API should enable, should be the sort of the standard way that we're, like, a lot of kops were like taking all the things that we've built and we're trying to like promote them into reusable projects that other components, other tools in the ecosystem can use, both if you want to write a kops competitor, or alternative, I should say, if you want to write a kops alternative, you can use them. And also then the autoscaler can, for example, or things can build on it. So the autoscaler would be better integrated with kops, right? Right now we have like two brains, and like this is a problem. It's a problem in, you know, in GKE, and I suspect EKS and all these sort of things as well. Like it's hard to deal with, and so we put it in a Kubernetes type, and everyone can talk to it consistently. The rolling update logic, I personally have a patch which reduces the times that we wait. Some of those are a little conservative, so we can certainly do that. That helps. The other thing is there are some much bigger fixes, which are good fixes. The question is like to what extent we want to do them when the cluster API is coming. And I guess my concern with them is that they've all been fairly large, right? And if someone wanted to produce if that PR author or those PR authors wanted to create like very focused PRs that just did smaller pieces, I'd be very open to it. But I feel like if we were to do the node, reducing the node interval is a good change. And
there was a PR recently. I don't think it made it into 111. I think it was merged after. And I don't know who did it. I don't remember. But for allowing us to set the validation timeout.
Oh yeah, we should definitely have that. Yes, all those timeouts should be configurable.
Yes, if we can merge that in, then I am all in support of dropping the timeouts on the other stuff, because that's the biggest thing we hit is we have those actually increased over the defaults, because in like Brazil and Sydney and some of these other regions, sometimes we hit instances that are slow to come up from API calls in Amazon. So we have those bumped, but if we could lower those and just increase the validation timeout, it would allow the ones that come up fast to go fast, and when it still allows us to validate when they are slow.
That's definitely doable. Sorry.
Yeah, we had that actually. I don't think it's 111, but it's merged into master.
You raised, so that's another cherry pick. And you saying you raised the timeout, Mike?
No, but it's now configurable to the user.
Okay, cool. Yes, I think I raised the timeout as well. Like it's definitely important once you lower the interval, you have to raise the timeout. The other one focused thing we could do, one smaller thing we could do is we could enable you to pass a flag to run more than one node or master, but really node is going to be the one you want to do. Ooh, that's a bookmark. But yes, more than one node at the same time, which would, it's not perfect. Like what you really want to do is you want to grow the number of nodes and then reduce them. But we could say, we could almost put them on put that on the user. And we could say, like, if you want this, please manually resize your node pool, your instance group before doing the rolling update. In other words, and then put it back afterwards. That's sort of been the stumbling block with a lot of these PRs, is like, it's hard to recover from some of those scenarios if we get interrupted in the middle. But if we had run nodes in parallel, someone come up with a better option, like, parallel node count equals 5, and then you'd opt into that. And that would be, I think that'll be fine, because it would get us to like the future, right? I feel like cluster API is coming, but it's not here. And it would be nice if it was here. The mental bookmark, by the way, is if you had... Sorry, Peter.
I think parallelizing by instance group would be a good start. So we could do one at a time per instance group.
Oh, that is a good idea.
Masters.
We still want to do masters separately.
Yes.
Yeah. So of type node, not master. Yeah, I agree. That's a good one. Because that's what I end up doing manually. I just open up terminals for each.
That's it, when people do those sort of things, do tell me, and we could try to make them into code. But yeah, it's,
I never thought about that.
I like that per IG parallel roles. We can definitely do that. The other one is, if we enabled you to run the master with parallel count of 2, I think maybe we could maybe it could be a non-disruptive upgrade. it's sort of cheating. Maybe our validate logic would work, in other words. That's worth, I might keep that in my back pocket if all else fails, that might work. Because it's certainly not something you do normally, but yeah, I like that idea. Like in practice, we want to start, so cluster API is going to have, the machine deployment is the name of this thing, and it will look a lot like a deployment. It will have all the options we want. It will have like, do I want to surge, max unavailable, like to specify the number of roles, either as a percentage or as an absolute number. Like these are all things we want. I don't know how many of those it makes sense to code in. For like the percent, now that you've said the per instance group one, I'm feeling like the percentage is an important one, but I want to keep it scoped or scoped. I want to keep it sensible. But yeah, that feels reasonable. So I don't know if that answers your question, Ryan, about like, and I don't know if it answers your use case.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're fighting the same problem, right? Of larger clusters just taking, if you try to do a normal upgrade, it takes hours, and nobody wants that. So
yeah.
But yeah, if we could cherry pick that one backend to let us set the validation timeout, that would be awesome.
Yeah, I put it in the release notes under the 1.11.1 as a nice to have.
Perfect.
Okay. Cherry pick validation timeout. Okay. We have one last little item on the agenda, which is the thing I just alluded to, which is after we finally get etcd manager all squared away, like what am I personally thinking about doing next, which is CRDs. There's a work in progress PR up for that, replacing the aggregate API server with CRDs, which will actually let kops server hopefully work. The first steps on the cluster API, which we just mentioned, cluster API is still very alpha, so we likely won't make it I can't imagine a world where we make it the default yet, but we can make it so that you can like have an instance group that is backed by an instance group of nodes that is backed by cluster API, and at least let people start to experiment. I don't know. I think that will definitely have to be feature flagged because one, it's alpha, and two, I suspect we won't have parity with all the features of kops. So like you can define all these options today on your instance group, and we have to figure out how to map those. In general, the cluster API has to figure out how to like support many more options. And then bundle and add-on integration work. Like there's a lot of, Jeff Johnson and I presented our work on add-ons and add-on operators at KubeCon in Seattle, and hopefully we can start to get the bundles and the add-ons integrate into kops, or bundles and integrate into kops, and add-ons integrate into kops. Add-ons being the way we apply the bundle, and the bundle being a way that we can specify that we don't have to tie, for example, a Calico upgrade to a kops upgrade, so that we actually don't have to do 5 things. We're not juggling like 5 things at once, and we can actually like split them out in a nicer way.
Yeah, there was a question about add-on management in general, so maybe you could merge into it somehow.
What's the question, or do you want to rephrase the question for?
Oh, there was a topic about add-ons management in overall also, so I wonder how it merges.
Yeah, I mean, I think the answer is no one. We're still working on it. We have a real problem. We have a challenge in kops that today we embed our bundle, our specification of our add-ons into the kops binary itself, and that's not the right way to do things because it causes us challenges. Because, for example, every time there's a new version of add-on X, we have to release a new version of kops to get that new version. That's a little suboptimal, and the bundle externalizes that into a YAML file that, or YAML-like file that is sort of referenced and can be updated separately from kops itself, or released separately from Kubernetes, for example. The add-on operators answer the question of how do you apply those changes safely. So in theory, some of the etcd upgrade, like the problem we faced where etcd has to upgrade and then change the API server flag, in theory, that's the sort of thing an operator could do. In practice, like an operator can't do that because it's not running yet, but you can imagine like these sort of weird dependencies where things have to happen in a certain order, or we have to do actions at like based on other things, or actually here's a concrete example in the Calico upgrade. When you turn on, when you go to version 2 to when you turn on CRDs, you can delete one of the deployments, and we could make that happen. We can also do that in other ways, but we can actually do that sort of thing. That is sort of, so there's this repo, github.com Google Cloud Platform cluster bundle, where Josh Hoke, who works at Google, has created a specification for the bundle, which will be this sort of YAML file with a specification of the add-ons that can be external from kops, but also can be shared between all tooling. And then add-on operators will start to create that actually go and apply those safely. Which hopefully in most cases, safely will be just kubectl apply. But the idea is that by making it an operator, we have the option that when something comes along that is more complicated, we are able to deal with it. I don't know if there are more questions or more like open issues. I know there are going to be more open issues, but yeah, that's...
Picture gets wider and colorful at the same time. So, okay, thank you for that answer.
Okay. I think we've reached the end of our agenda. I don't know if anyone else has anything they would like to cover in our last 5 minutes. Going once, going twice. Otherwise, I wish everyone a very happy weekend and a very happy long weekend for people that are getting a long weekend. And we will see you all in 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Justin.
Thanks.